Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies, gentlemen, anybody else who's on this here show, uh, or good whatever time it is, wherever you happen to be. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live here on YouTube, brought to you by us, the folks, or some of the folks from Nerd Caliber. I'm Rodney Brown, editor in chief of Nerd Caliber. Luminous, welcome to the show. Luminous sees blue. Your rods or cones? Come on, come on. Somebody who just recently went through.
Uh, I got nothing.
All right. One
It's
of
all very
those two
blue around
things
here.
in your eyes is working properly, Luminous. It's good to know. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, Rodney Brown, editor in chief, Nerd Caliber, first person shooter, cosplay photographer on the Facebooks, and Burley underscore adopter on a bunch of other things like the Twitters. Joining me tonight is the Blue Enlightened, the Doctor Manhattan, the bearded Doctor Manhattan. Uh, Introduce yourself, sir.
After an introduction like that, I really don't need any introduction. Let's just say I am wearing pants, so we should be all right. Hi, everybody. Greg Snyder, aka Wonder Llama cosplay and/or photography. I'll be doing a little bit of both this coming weekend. I think we'll be touching on that later, so I won't go there just yet. We got a few interesting things to chat about here this evening, and I think we'll wrap it up with some fun cosplay stuff for the weekend.
This is true. Because once we're done talking about the other stuff about PAX East, we probably really want to talk about the good stuff about PAX East. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with this is rumor. And the rumor that just won't die, this has been out there for, well, since pretty much they announced the Witcher series, is the rumor that Mark Hamill may or may not be playing the character Vesemir in the upcoming season 2. He has, so far, the latest official word is he has said his agent knows nothing about it. That, by the way, this thing that just popped up onto your screen is actually Mark Hamill from the upcoming season of the History Channel series about the Knights Templar, Nightfall. And he plays a character in that. Kaylee, welcome to the show. You don't know why you're here, though? Maybe because you like hearing about nerd news? Maybe because you want to hear about PAX East? Because it says Kaylee the Gamer? Um, you don't remember subbing? That's okay. You don't have to be a subscriber to enjoy two, I'm going to fade back in here, two bald, bearded, graying gentlemen talking about nerd news. So, welcome to the show. At least we understand LED lighting. Anyway, the rumor's been out there. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger as people create more and more fan art. And again, that's not fan art. That's actually from an upcoming series or the upcoming second season of a series he is joining. But they want him to play Vesemir. And people keep chiming in on it. And the rumor keeps going out there that somebody has heard it's a close possibility, apparently, except Mark Hamill.
My sister's hairdresser's best friend's dog walker said he talked to a guy who met Mark Hamill at a convention one time, and he said it was a go.
Legit.
Green light. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to say that again because I got that once.
You know, I was just about to go off on a tangent about people telling stories at cons, but Greg and I both talked about it earlier, and we both talk too much. So we're going to try to make this show run a little bit faster than us just going off on a tangent. But if you get a chance, look for Giancarlo Esposito's recent statements about the second season of The Mandalorian, assuming you want to learn stuff about that. He dropped some really interesting stuff. Anyway, so I won't go into what he said. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Rumor. Now, everybody wants him to play it. Nobody's offered him a job apparently yet. So, you know, had I read deeper into this, I wouldn't have even put this up to here. What they are quoting, this article in Forbes of all places that I got this from, they are quoting "We Got This Covered," the worst nerd news website out there. Every headline says confirmed. Nothing they've ever said is confirmed. So yeah, sorry about that, folks. someday maybe he'll get signed on to do this because everybody wants him to. But yeah, if we got this coverage says that they've confirmed it, it has not happened. So, but I'd
So
like
we
it
need
to.
to get a little graphic down to the bottom of the screen. It's just like rumor with flames on it.
Exactly. Or it's like we got this coverage says, and then just stop and move on.
Bum bum ba-dum.
Da, 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 da. Kaylee, have a good evening. Welcome for stopping by. And if you like nerd news and you want it, stop by again next week, Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Don't know where you're at. So, moving on to our next topic, because this one, well, it's also kind of a rumor. All right. I was going to say isn't a rumor, but it is a rumor. So, right out of the gate, heads up, I'm going to try to do this with as little spoilery talk about Rise of Skywalker as humanly possible. But the image that popped up there, which could be from one of the trailers, it's not, but it's close enough to something that was in the trailer, is in itself a little bit spoilery because it wasn't exactly what was in a trailer. So if you haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, and yes, I know it's been more than a month and a half, and so all bets are off as far as spoiler alerts. We'll try to do this without a whole lot of spoilers. But the news is that there's apparently a movie in the works that is going to be set on that planet that's up on your screen. It's an important planet in the third act of the movie, the planet called Exegol, which is a hidden Sith planet where a lot of the big reveal conspiracy stuff is revealed. Generic
where
enough?
hilarity ensues.
And where hilarity ensues.
Much hilarity.
Up? Yeah, must have possibly. Yeah, I did. Okay, there we go. Bring it back to us. Or annoyance or whatever. I have not seen Rise of Skywalker yet.
You haven't?
After seeing all the reviews, I went, you know what? I am not going to pay my good money. I'm going to wait for it to hit cable, and I will watch and probably do exactly what everybody. It's a J.J. Abrams movie, and from what I understand, he plays even more fast and loose with story than he does in almost everything else.
Yep.
And that's just going to annoy the living bejesus out of me.
So I think, I don't know anything about the filmmaker. One of the guys who's credited in this Deadline article as one of the writers has credits from Luke Cage and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
yep.
Which hypothetically is a pretty good indication. Both excellent shows. I just, when we were tossing this one around, I don't remember precisely what I said, but something to the effect of like, cool, let's focus on the most absurdly goth, campy, not in a good way, Gorman gassed, over the top part of Rise of Skywalker that had, it was one of those things where I think a production designer had a wet dream and somehow Abrams bought into it. It's interesting if, in comparison, in Clone Wars, all of the Jedi Temple, Sith Temple stuff that they did in there was really cool. I love that type of deep fill-in backstory. It was creepy, it was gothic, but somehow it was good. Exegol on Rise of Skywalker was, I expected to hear Carmina Burana playing through the whole thing. It was that, yeah, you laugh, but it was literally, as soon as they started doing these wide pans on what was obviously a completely CGI universe, I was waiting for the which thankfully they did not do.
That is specifically Fortuna Imperatrix Mundi from the entire Carmina Burana.
There you go. If you want to get specific about it.
If you want to get specific about it. In case you were wondering about that, Flamed Crate, LO, Flamed Crate. I hope your crate gets put out, or maybe not. LO, welcome to the show.
Very surprising loot crate, perhaps.
Flamed Crate. Every week it shows up at your house and sets it on fire. that would not be good, and we shouldn't make fun of Flame Crate's YouTube name. Anyway, yeah. So this is just a rumor. If it happens, it's got to be one of the dumbest rumors out there. This J.D. Dillard is apparently a young African American filmmaker who has made a bunch of well-received but very, very small indie flicks. So maybe. It also doesn't know whether it would be a movie for theaters or a movie for Disney Plus, or if it's even really a real deal. Disney and Lucasfilm declined to comment when reached, according to Deadline article.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. Had to bite my tongue. I was going to go into a long rant about Rise of Skywalker, which I haven't even seen, but we're going to move on to. So I don't know if you saw this news, anybody out there, but if you're a fan of going to cons, and if you're a fan of cosplay, and I am both of those things, Greg is both of those things, this is huge. Silicon Valley Comic Con is a convention founded by Steve Wozniak, Apple Computer co-founder, to create a Comic Con in the heart of Silicon Valley, in the heart of the West Coast tech boom. And apparently Adam Savage of Mythbusters, of Tested on YouTube, the amazing Adam Savage, who is also an enormous fan of cosplay, has been involved to some extent with Silicon Valley Comic Con for years. They have just named him creative director, pretty much the face of the con, and rebranded it as Silicon, which is kind of a neat pun and kind of a probable dodge against San Diego Comic-Con suing them.
Especially since it's right up the street.
Yeah, well, right up the state, but yeah. Because in San Jose, but still in the same state. California's big, dude. Well, you would know more than I, but yeah. So this is enormous. I love this. I love this idea. I honestly can't wait to see what comes out of this. What increase in sort of the participation of cosplay this becomes. Savage is a maker, obviously. Frankly, this could be like our cosplay and photography expo to the nth degree in a couple of years. And I would think that's hilarious. I would love it. But are you a Savage fan?
I am. I don't know how you're in this kind of space that we're all sitting in and not be a Savage fan. He's funny. He's not afraid to take the piss out of himself. I'm sure he's blown himself up more than once. His all of his YouTube stuff, whether you just like watching weird people do weird things with a budget and make stuff, or whether you really like the tutorials and whatnot, he's great. And he is a genuine fan of cosplay. One of my favorite stories that I read about him, I'm a big Miyazaki fan, so this was hit me right in the feels. He did a giant No Face.
Yes.
He built this whole big mechanical hydraulic jaw so they could do the whole, not just the flat face, but the whole giant face. And he went around cons and gave people candy, which is a gag lots and lots of people do, but it's not something you think of, minor internet and TV celebrities doing necessarily. It's a tiny line in this one little article about his involvement, but the thing that I took away from this is officials say Silicon will continue to blend pop culture and technology. So it sounds to me like I don't really know anything about the convention prior to this announcement, but it sounds to me that it's broader than just comic book artists, movie guests, TV guests, etc. They've said the previous lineups have included astronauts, tech leaders, game designers, sci-fi authors, people like Bill Shatner, Schwarzenegger, Jason Momoa. So it could be a pretty interesting and diverse thing. I mean, one of the photos that's up on this article is like a half dozen maker-made remote-controlled R2-D2s running around delighting a group full of kids.
Yeah.
So it could be pretty funny. It could be pretty entertaining.
So, Todd's Fantasy Corner, welcome to the show. Cosplayers, Greg's a cosplayer. I'm not really. I'm a photographer. Greg's also a photographer. If you mean where's the cosplayers that were in the image, that was taken last year at PAX, which is going to be the topic of the subject of the final topic tonight. And that's where the cosplayers are at. Leangel Groven. Hi, welcome. Correct me on the pronunciation of your name, please, or don't. Let me stumble and fall on my face. That's fine too. Luminous, a con by Adam Savage, would hopefully have a lot more heart than the big for-profit pop culture cons. Well, yes, and Wozniak as well. Wozniak famously has always been about giving back to his community. But don't forget, Adam Savage, made Mythbusters because he made money. Tested makes money. It is a commercial operation. But yes, there are times when it seems like a lot of these large for-profit pop culture cons go out of their way to not have a heart. And hopefully, you're right that won't be the case with Adam Savage's. And also Luminous previously, the Star Wars Exegol thing, if it happens, sounds like an Underworld ripoff. Great comparison.
Yep. A few less vampires and werewolves, but not far from it.
Flamed Crate, it is kind of laggy, and you know what? I don't know why. It occurred to me some way that I might be able to fix that next stream. So thank you for pointing that out. And it's one of those that piece of technology. And what was the one other thing? Oh, and Flame Crate, you don't get burned. You're fire resistant. Good. We like to hear that.
Good to know.
Don't try to prove it. Yeah, just huge news for people out in the West Coast. I hope they get like live streams from Tested from out there, or they do a lot of video from out there, so we can all get to experience some of it on YouTube. But he's taking over right now, so the 2020 edition coming up this summer will be, Adam Savage branded. Yay.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Going from Adam Savage to somebody who's just savage. That is the kind of wonderful Eli Roth. And I say kinda because honestly, I'm not a huge fan of his super gore fest movies, his horror stuff. I am a great fan of his turn as the Bear Jew in Inglourious Bastards, the Tarantino movie, where he references Teddy Ballgame. Because Roth is from Massachusetts, is from the greater Boston area. But the news is that Eli Roth is apparently going to be making a Borderlands movie for Lionsgate. And I don't know, I don't know how to react to this. It's obviously not going to be horror, so it won't be the gore fest. I mean, I'm sure it'll be bloody and violent, but so is the game. It's not going to be the gore fests that he is known for. And video game movies generally suck. But it's Eli Roth, and it's Lionsgate. So I don't know. I'm cautiously, as they say, optimistic.
I'll second the cautious optimism. I'm also not a fan. I'm not a fan of torture porn as a genre, but people that like Saw, etc., that type of movie, speak very highly of him. So obviously he's got filmmaking skills, even if it's stuff that I personally don't care for. I mean, there's a pretty big Borderlands is a pretty big world, and there's 3 games, 3.5 plus some DLCs, etc., that they can pick from. I hope that they go with some of the iconic central characters. I mean, if you make a Borderlands movie without Mad Moxie, you're gonna have riots on your hands.
Yeah.
Even though she's not a huge character. It's the Arid brothers, which I can't tell whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. They tend to be a little cheesy, if I remember, but
A little.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I think it all comes down to what they try to do. If they want to do something big and super colorful and saturated and ridiculous and over the top, it could be fun. If they try to do edgy and grounded and dark, it's probably gonna suck.
Now, she's not on the show tonight, but Gogo pointed out in our group where we talk about these things before the show that that sadly Randy Pitchford is an executive producer on the show, and you know, there are an awful lot of people that are not big fans of Randy Pitchford out of Gearbox Software. Um,
True.
so I'm kind of hoping that he's got that executive producer title because you have to have titles like that to determine your pay grade or what share of the revenue of a movie you get. He's the executive producer of all of these games at Gearbox, so therefore he has to set his pay grade, and that he won't have anything to do with the movie. I don't know.
Don't know.
Hopefully. Oh, Ben Nate, welcome to the show. Um, Luminous. Eli Roth was a co-producer of Baywatch 2017, so what could go wrong?
Literally nothing.
Nothing. Um, yeah, like I said, the man's got skills, both as an actor and a director. As Greg pointed out, don't like the torture porn, gore fest type of horror anyway. So I'm not a huge fan of his films in general. Um, his trailer for the movie that never actually really happened, that was in between the two movies in Grindhouse, the Thanksgiving one, was hilarious. If you get a chance, just
Was
go
it?
to YouTube and look up Eli Roth's Thanksgiving trailer. It's a horror movie about Thanksgiving, and it's done in such perfect
I mean,
Grindhouse style. It's hilarious.
isn't Thanksgiving enough of a horror show already without Eli Roth getting involved?
No, that's probably true. Um, anyway, so no information about when it's going to happen. It is definitely going to happen. I mean, they've all put out statements about it, including
Okay.
Pitchford. Um, apparently, Lionsgate has had this in the works since 2015, so I'm thinking you're looking at a 2021 at the earliest on this.
Production will begin later this year, so at the earliest.
Ooh. Yeah, yeah, it's later this
Cool.
year. Yep. So now we move on to this. I'm not really sure how to interpret this because literally nobody is talking about this in any depth. That just popped up on your screen is a picture that I took of now former DC Comics co-publisher Dan DiDio back when he was editor-in-chief in 2014 at MegaCon. Even though I said we wouldn't do stories, real quick short story. Sunday, I was hanging out with my good friend SGH Photo Arts, who had this booth that you see in the background there at MegaCon, taking pictures of people. And Dan DiDio was not on the guest list at all. He's got a MegaCon badge around his neck. But he comes just walking by, says hi to SGH, apparently he knows him, and I went, oh my God, can I get a photo for our website? And he stood in the space, which SGH was letting me use his space. That's why I was there. And I got this portrait of him. Anyway, the news is that Dan DiDio is out. He is no longer co-publisher of DC Comics. That happened on the 21st. And since then, I've been looking up articles about why, well, what went on, what happened, and so far, nobody is talking. There's a lot of Sturm und Drang out there about how the fact that, as the primary punching bag for New 52, he deserved rebooted because New 52 was an awful reboot of the DC franchise. There was also a very interesting article on a website called Book Riot that pointed out that he was apparently a very staunch defender of Eddie Berganza as a notorious serial harasser and an open secret in the industry until finally BuzzFeed exposed him 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 2017. But that same article also pointed out that he has championed a number of titles like Midnighter and Secret Six, which have main lead characters that are gay. That under his or under his control, DC has gone up to 34% female creators, which is way better than it was when he started. I think it was around 1%, according to what I'm reading. So I don't know. Nobody's saying why he's out, but he's out. Nobody's saying if he left or if he was fired. He's just not there anymore, which leaves Jim Lee as the sole publisher of DC Comics. So that's the news as we have it.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're not a Dan DiDio fanboy or hater or whatever you have, probably doesn't mean anything to you. I can tell you this: it will mean huge things going forward. It essentially already has. They killed New 52 with the Rebirth last year, and apparently they're doing even further retroactive corrections, which can't be where they get retcon, because con is not anyway. Fixes to what happened in New 52 in another big event that's going to be happening later this year. So maybe that's it. Maybe he just didn't like the fact that they went, yeah, that New 52 stuff sucks so badly, we're going to have to change the whole universe. But anyway.
So before we throw to our last couple of things, can I just chime in with something that broke like literally as we were going online?
Sure.
And I've verified this across multiple media locations, but Bob Iger is stepping down as CEO of Disney, according to everybody today.
Yes,
including Disney.
He's named the head of parks, essentially, as his replacement as CEO. He will continue to be chairman of Disney Corporation, the entire thing, chairman of the board, through this year. But he is eventually going to be stepping down from everything. So, yeah, big news.
Very big news. Very interesting. Maybe we'll have more on that next week. That was literally just a quick blurb because it broke just before we went live. But he's been a huge part of, love it or hate it, of what Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, Fox, you name it. He's had a big piece of it.
Yep.
Pixar,
Lucasfilm, Disney, Marvel, Fox, all of that, all of the expansion of the parks into the new IPs that they purchased, all of that, that's all Iger. So we'll see where this goes. It is huge news, but you're right. It happened so late that I didn't know that I could get my head around it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's big. It's big. But yes, now we're moving into our last topic, and I've got a bunch of different images here. So for Todd's Fantasy Corner, there's your cosplayers. There you go. That was taken, as I said, last year at PAX East. That is Boston B Cosplay and Joe Anthony Stark cosplaying from the Sony game of Spider-Man. That was a huge hit. As that game's version of Black Cat and the initial suit that you get in the game as Spider-Man. And the news is, of course, about PAX East, and at first it was about just Sony pulling out. Well, that's changed. And in fact, changed at the end of last week, and just for some reason now, everybody, including us, are finally picking up on it. Because I don't think anybody put this out there very much. But not only has Sony pulled out, but both Capcom and Square Enix have changed what they're planning on doing at PAX East. Sony cited the coronavirus. Square Enix cited the coronavirus concerns. Capcom did not say exactly that, but one has to assume that's the case, because in the case of Capcom and Square Enix, both of them are dev teams for the two games that they wanted to really talk about that aren't going to be coming out of Japan. So Capcom was going to send a Monster Hunter dev team here to Boston. I'm going to explain why I'm putting it that way in a second. And they've canceled. And Square Enix is going to send the Final Fantasy XIV Online dev team here to do a bunch of panels at PAX East, and they're not coming because of the coronavirus. What Capcom is doing and is still doing is they're holding a Monster Hunter tournament called the Monster Hunter Festa 2020, Boston 2020, at Royale in the Theater District, at a nightclub in the Theater District, and they announced that months ago. And that is still going on. What happened, and that was not involved with PAX East. They timed it for the same weekend of PAX East, obviously, because there's going to be a ton of gamers in Boston. What happened was when PAX East announced that they had a bunch of panel spots open, Capcom assigned this Monster Hunter dev team to go do an autograph session panel at PAX East. But they don't have they never had a booth on the show floor. That was their only participation in the actual event. PAX East was this late edition of an autograph session. Now that the dev team isn't coming, the autograph session is gone. And so, therefore, they are not officially participating in PAX East, but they are still holding the tournament. It's all signed up. I mean, you can't sign up anymore. I think they'll take walk-ins, or they'll try to take walk-ins, but it's all booked up. You can watch it on Twitch if you want. Square Enix was going to have a whole bunch of panels by this dev team, and they've all canceled them. The one that they are doing something about is that they're going to be doing a live stream in English and Japanese of the same panelists that were going to be doing a panel about the art of Final Fantasy XIV Online. But it'll be done from Japan, streamed. I have to look at my article. Can't remember what night. But streamed, the same coming weekend. February 29th. 8 p.m. Eastern Time on their Final Fantasy XIV Online Twitch channel. And I'll let you guys look that up if you want to, because I ain't gonna. So, this guy then, after the Sony cancellation, went on and made an official public appeal by the mayor of Boston. That is Mayor Marty Walsh if you're not in Boston, or in the Massachusetts or in this area. And he made a public appeal to Sony to come back to PAX East to change their mind, in part because the fear of this coronavirus and an awful lot of I want to say prejudice. Let's put it that way, about the fact that it might possibly be something that's just endemic in any Chinese community has devastated Boston's Chinatown business market. The restaurants are seeing almost nobody. The Chinese food stores, it's not a ghost town like Wuhan, but in comparison to what it should be, is kind of a ghost town. Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, as you were looking at that, I was scrolling through another story. More developers are pulling out. GameSpot.com is reporting Cyberpunk 2077, and PUBG devs are pulling out as well. I'm just scrolling this, so I can't confirm or deny that, but just seeing that.
All right, well, I'm going to be looking this up. So
there may
Greg,
be others.
Give me a reaction to stupid prejudice. Keeping people out of. Yeah,
that's what a lawyer calls a leading question.
It is.
It's stupid. It bothers me. I'm going to be there. I'll be honest. I'll be a little bit more cautious than I probably otherwise would be. I'm more worried about getting a standard crud cold than I am about contracting a deadly flu virus from 5,000 miles away. Look, don't give your phone to other people to type their Instagram thing in it. Just ask them and type it in yourself. I mean, that's that kind of stuff. It's not that hard to do. I get that for people who are going to be.
There you go. Sorry, go ahead. That was me.
Oh, sorry. I get that if developers are sending people from lots of different locations. If they're flying, there's a slightly higher risk to their employees. Um, Maybe, who knows? It seems unlikely. Everything that I've read about it, and I'm doing my best to educate myself about it rather than just being afraid of it. There's been no instances, no relevant instances in Massachusetts. Um, it's a very low risk type of a disease for this area. Yes, I would hesitate if we were going to cover a convention in Shanghai or somewhere in mainland China. I don't think I would be getting on a plane to do that right now. Excuse me. As for the sort of the knock-on effect, it is one of those things that smacks of racism born of misinformation. And I've seen enough friends on Facebook talking about, people bashing their Asian friends, specifically Chinese friends. And we have in the photography world, in the cosplay world, in our personal, I know both you and I, in our personal circles of friends, lots and lots of Chinese friends, lots of Japanese friends, lots of, I know Filipinos and Thai and Malaysian people. Are any of them going to make me sick because they happen to share a gene pool? Of course not. So it's disheartening to see that kind of casual racism being born out of, what is clearly a terrible disease, but is not likely to be, if you go to your local Chinese restaurant and you get some Peking ravioli, you're not going to die.
Yes. So I did a little bit of looking up while we were talking about that, or while you were talking about that. CD Projekt Red did not have any plans to demo or talk about Cyberpunk 2077 at PAX East. They didn't have a booth. They were sending their staff there because it's a big gaming convention and it's on this coast and not the West Coast. So if you're sending people from Poland, it makes sense to go to Boston. So that's a bummer that their people won't be here to enjoy the show, but it doesn't affect anybody. It's not like they were bringing the game in the first place. But that is big news that it's that big of a concern for a company like that they aren't willing to go from Poland to the United States, where there has not been a single case of human-to-human transmission at all in the U.S. Now, since Greg, you were saying that you were looking up some information about the coronavirus, I don't have a link to it, but folks, if you are interested, there's a wonderful article on Business Insider that compares it to the last coronavirus outbreak, which was SARS back in 2003, and some things to know. It's more infectious. It seems to be much easier to get. It seems to be much less deadly. SARS had a death rate, a mortality rate of about 9%, and so far, the highest estimates are 2.3% for people who are infected. Yeah. It will become a pandemic because it is so easily transmittable, apparently. But it kills, so far, less people than, and as a lower mortality rate than the influenza. The biggest difference is that you can't get a shot to vaccinate against it like you can with the flu every year. And you basically just have to ride it out because there is no specific antiviral that will target that particular virus. So nobody wants to get sick. One of the other weird things about it is that apparently it is much more infectious to adults and more deadly to adults than most flu-type viruses. Kids don't seem to get it as high a rate as adults, and kids don't die as high a rate as adults, even though the mortality rate is pretty low. So, yay, COVID-19. Thanks for sparing the kids. But, yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of elbow bashing instead of handshaking at PAX. That's just smart. Got a lot of Purell one-shots left over from Aresia when we had our table at Aresia. Yep, they're all coming with me. The whole team's going to be handed, they'll be given those to do this. And the BCEC has announced, the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center in South Boston, where this takes place, has announced that they will be increasing their cleaning, maintenance, and hygiene, and they have Purell stations everywhere.
Yep.
So they're going to just be even more everywhere. It's really annoying. And here's the one. So the big rumor out there is that for people who are kind of in Greg's boat and my boat, where we kind of go, I don't want to get sick, but it's not that bad, is that the people who don't know but love to spread rumors are saying that they actually pulled out because they really don't have a playable demo of Last of Us Part 2 ready to go. And that, of course, which has popped up on your screen, is one of the screenshots from Last of Us Part 2. That's a somewhat more grown-up Ellie about to look like take a kukri knife to some guy's head. Or maybe already has. Kind of hard to say. I think, there's no way of knowing that. That just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Sony had a commitment to Penny Arcade Expo, and by not showing up, they're going to pay Penny Arcade Expo a lot of money. If they knew the game wasn't ready for development, they wouldn't have made the commitment, or ready for demo. They wouldn't have made the commitment in the first place. I really think it is like most of these companies in Japan fear that they might spread the coronavirus to other countries, not that they might get it. If you read the actual tweet from Capcom, it's very clearly that they are worried about the fear of spreading COVID-19 out of Japan, not just, or even not primarily, about catching it at some country where it's not even transmitting from human to human yet. So that's it. PAX East is still going on. Are you going to be there, Greg?
I'm going to be there.
Greg's
going to be there, Rodney?
I'm going to be there. Nerd Caliber will be there. We'll be there taking photos. We'll be there doing video. We'll be there doing game interviews, social media. We'll do our usual stuff at PAX East with, like I said, maybe a little more of these and a little less of these, and that's it. Now, if you want to go, I can say the fear, and possibly the fact that Sony won't be there and others, is causing the ticket reseller market to go crazy. You can get 4-day passes for a kind of a cheap deal right now. I mean, you can still get them on the website. You can get them for less than that if you go to like the PAX East 2020 Facebook group or other places. So I'm not encouraging you to go. Yeah, I am. Don't feed into this, take your health seriously. Don't feed into the hype.
Well said.
Thank you.
That said, to flip it completely on its head, the last couple of years, PAX has been so effing crowded that if 10% of the people stay home, I will not be upset by that. Just speaking strictly in terms of getting from one side of the floor to the other, et cetera, et cetera.
That is true. I'd say Brady Wolf, welcome to the show. Mr. Krakawian, welcome to the show. Brady, I don't specifically remember that you told me that if all the spiders in the world teamed up to eat all the humans, they would do it in less than a year. But that's good to know, I think. Interesting that you keep things like that in your head. And yes, Mr. Krakowian, C2E2 is this week in Chicago, and I have not heard any news about any effect on C2E2. And maybe it's because C2E2 is more of a comic and cosplay event, and they have fewer potential guests. I will also say I have not heard anything from Anime Boston about any of their Japanese guests canceling, and Anime Boston is in April, so it's a month and a half, somewhere in between a month and a half and 2 months away. But going to PAX East 10% fewer people, our panel. If you are going to PAX East, whether you were doing so before or now are doing so because you can get a cheap ticket, and you're a cosplayer or you just like hearing cosplayers talk about really amazing stuff, our panel, the Advanced Cosplay Q&A, is 3:30 p.m., Cuttlefish Theater, Friday afternoon. Lucky Grim Creative, Misa Cosplay, Steel Shield Cosplay, up-and-coming amazing foam and armor talent. And out of Texas, Sledgehammer Cosplay, but I think officially on Facebook now he's just Sledge. Unbelievable talent. Will be there to answer any question you have. If you are stuck on something and can't figure out how to do it in your cosplay, they've done it, and they can answer how. If you have just a generic, how do I make this better? How do I do this more efficiently? Anything like that, bring your question, 3:30 p.m., Cuttlefish. It's the showroom floor level, left-hand side, all the way back, end of the hallway. You'll learn an awful lot of stuff and have a good time. So what else do we need to talk about PAX East?
Where are we going to be? Where can you find us if you're coming in?
So if you are coming in, you walk in that main entrance because it's the only way you can get in after going through all the security and everything out front. As soon as you walk in, you look over to the left, and there's a seating area with some big windows, and you will see my umbrella on a light stand up there, assuming the security doesn't get all pissy like they did last year. I talked them out of it, but you never know. Different security people. And you'll see us. You'll see Nerd Caliber will be sort of based there. Our team's going to be all over, but that's a good place to come and meet us and say hello and get your elbow bump. Or if you know me well enough and you want to come in for a hug, you can do a hug. That's one of the great things about cons in the winter. Hugs are pretty much close to close. So there's no contact. So anyway, we'll see you at PAX East. After that, we will see a bunch of you, if you're coming, to Ace Comic-Con, mid-March, Ace Comic-Con in Boston, also at the BCEC, a huge pop culture, comic, celebrity, and cosplay show. From what I understand, there's no dealer room. It's all panels and autograph sessions and stuff. So it's a celebrity con. But wow, the celebrities they get. We'll be there covering it. We will also that same weekend have a table at the wonderful little Queen City Kamikaze. If you like cute little anime cons, it's in Manchester. It's in a school put on by the school. The school's anime club or something like that, and it's wonderful. Byron D Zero will be running our table there. Stop by, say hi, learn all about our cosplay and photography expo, which I mentioned earlier. Our event, July 18th and 19th, Mansfield, Mass, right down there near Foxborough, right off the highways. It is like the panel we're going to be doing at PAX East, all about learning how to do anything in cosplay or learn about how to do any of the photography or videography of cosplay. Fantastic panelists, great panel ideas. The venue is really cool. The room layouts are great. Our big panel room is a like a college lecture hall, an auditorium style lecture hall. You'll have a lot of fun. Enormous indoor pool concourse area. They're very happy to have us take photos all over the place.
But is there a pirate ship?
No. If you've never been to Cape, you don't know that the last 2 years, or the last two events, we were at a venue in Nashua, New Hampshire, that had one of the last pirate ship bars of a craze where there were pirate ship bars everywhere in the 80s, in New England. And it was a fantastic location to shoot on. We decided that being at a place where the commuter rail stops 2 miles away from our hotel made more sense than getting a pirate ship. Having enough room to do all of our panels properly made more sense than the pirate ship. So So yeah, no
Yeah,
pirate ship.
I feel like we got an abundance of pirate ship themed photos over the last 2 years. I'm looking forward to a new location.
Yep. Yep. Me too. Anyway, so folks, that's our show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the chats, people. We're gonna go shorter. All right, we didn't go over 9 o'clock like we did last time. Anyway, please, if again, do whatever you want for your own health. But if I can say that you don't need to be panicking about the coronavirus, and you want to go to PAX but you couldn't because it was not affordable, do some digging, folks. Or don't, and Greg will be happier when there's like 10 or 15% fewer people than last year. Anyway,
Either way.
so once again, that gentleman, the big blue meanie. Nah, that's too old. Nobody's going to get that.
Fair. Big, I'm blue, and I'm mean. So
There you
sure.
go. And say goodbye and give everybody your stuff.
Hi, everybody. Great seeing y'all on the inner tubes as usual. Greg Snyder, associate producer here at Nerd Caliber. I, as you probably guessed, will be at PAX East this weekend with a whole bunch of Nerd Caliber contributors. We'll be doing feature shoots with people. If you come in and you see either one of these two people, we do look remarkably alike when I see us on YouTube. It's pretty amazing. For anybody that doesn't know, we are not, in fact, related in any way that we're aware of. Brother from another mother, I guess.
There you go.
If you see either one of us, come up, say hello, tell us you know us from Weekly Nerd News. We'll be happy to say hi, give you an elbow bump, and do some photos.
Exactly. And I'm Rodney Brown, as I said, editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. By the way, Greg, you're associate editor. Signing off. We'll talk to you. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of you this weekend. We'll see you next week on the next Nerd Week Live. Bye-bye.